Yo, what's up? Welcome to Blessway. This is my one-on-one with you guys. What's up, Patreon? How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? It's me, Blessing Adeoye. If you're not familiar with who I am, I recommend going to youtube.com/kindafunny, rewinding back about a month, and then watching their announcement video. Surprise, I am the new hire of Kinda Funny. I'm here because Greg hit me up, and he said that he wants me to do an exclusive Patreon series. That is me talking to you guys, doing like a one-on-one about what it's like being new to Kinda Funny, new to the industry, new to San Francisco, and essentially what it's like working on the game side of Kinda Funny games. And so I don't really know what Blessway is yet. In fact, fun fact, this is the first and last episode of Blessway because I'm updating the name. I've heard the cries. Blessway, not a great name. And so I'm changing it to Bless Up, like I've seen quite a few of you guys recommend, and I think Bless Up is an awesome name, and so that's what I'm going to be changing it to. And for this first and last episode of Blessway, I'm going to be answering your questions, and this might be what the regular thing for Blessway / Bless Up might be. I'm still figuring that out, but for now, for this episode at least, you guys wrote in questions to a Google form, and I have a bunch of questions to go through. Right, I'm gonna pick and choose to see like which ones I'm gonna answer. But of course, if you're unfamiliar, yeah, Blessing, I'm a host and producer here at Kinda Funny. I'm on Kinda Funny Games Daily. I'm on Kinda Funny Gamescast. I'm on the streaming stuff. PSLW XOXO with Greg, and yeah, I'm here doing all the games content. I've been here for about a month now, and it's been fun. It's been fun. And so I'm going to pull some questions. Let's see here. Colton Steele writes in and says, "Hey man, congratulations on getting a job at KF. Thank you so much. And did you get a degree in college to go into the video game industry?" I did not. So I did go to college. I did graduate. I went to college and I got my degree in communication with a focus in media. And so I knew that what I wanted to do was some sort of like broadcasting or some sort of like my goal when I was going to college was to write for somebody like IGN or to work at something like KF, right? I knew I wanted to do something in the sphere, but I didn't necessarily. I went in with a broad idea of what I wanted to do, right? And so like even if I didn't get hired at Kinda Funny, right, those skills still transfer to like if I wanted to get into PR or if I wanted to do advertising or if I wanted to do radio that wasn't video games, because like TBH, I didn't really have the confidence that like the video games industry was an easy thing to kind of get into, right? And so I kind of went into college with that kind of broad idea. In fact, my first major was graphic design because I wanted to do graphic design stuff. Then I switched pretty quickly because I realized graphic design wasn't for me. Ended up going with communication because it seemed broad enough and it seemed aimed enough at what I wanted to end up doing, that I decided to go with that instead. And so I did go to college. I didn't do any sort of like video game classes because I don't remember there being any really offered. I went to University of Illinois, and I don't remember any of them being offered there. And so pretty much a broad idea of what I wanted to do in college. Let's see here. Clancy Pants writes in and says, "What were you doing for work before KF?" Before KF, I did two things, right? My main job, my day job, I worked for a company called CBRE, which they're a real estate company. They work with bigger companies to help facilitate their real estate development. And through CBRE, I worked for Starbucks. And so essentially I was in Seattle, worked in the corporate office of Starbucks, and I essentially worked with their real estate team. They have a team over there that helps get new Starbucks stores essentially set up and ready to go. And so I worked with that team specifically to help process leases, incoming and outgoing leases, get them signed by higher ups, and then essentially get them through processing. Right? It was essentially a boring office job that I enjoyed because like I think working at Starbucks is pretty fun. You know, the facility there, the headquarters, right, on each floor they have like kitchens that you can go into that like are pretty decked out in terms of like wanting to make your own coffee and tea, which is really fun. And like right below me it was a Starbucks, and I got like a discount because I worked in the building, which is pretty fun. But yeah, that's what I did during the day. And then I had a night job, which is like my Batman job. It was like my my like alter ego, I guess. I did OK Beast, and so OK Beast was essentially the thing I started. It was a website / outlet / podcast, what do you want to call it, right? It was OK Beast was me doing podcasts and writing articles and making videos and doing all these different things and putting it out there, right? It was my my outlet through which to kind of feed all my creative endeavors. And it started off as just me. Brought on my homie Ian, and then soon enough my homies Alex and Brandon also came on, and yeah, it turned into the four of us essentially running pretty much our own kind of funny, right? I think like most of us had already been fans of Kind of Funny. I met Alex Van Aken in the Kind of Funny Facebook group. Brandon is Alex Van Aken's stepdad, and then Ian I met I want to say on Twitter because he had found OK Beast while Googling. But for the most part, we had all been Kind of Funny fans. I met Alex for the first time at Kind of Funny Live 2. Met Ian for the first time, I want to say also at a Kind of Funny Live, maybe Kind of Funny Live 3. I can't remember specifically, but yeah, that's what I did. And I spent, and the reason why I you know, you asked what were you doing for work. I do refer as OK Beast as work because I essentially put as much time into that as I would have put into a part-time job. And at a certain point, we launched a Patreon, right? And so we were making money doing that. And so, you know, that's kind of what I spent my time doing. I really enjoyed both those things. But yeah, like OK Beast definitely also for me started off as a way to kind of get into the video games industry and like specifically, you know, get into Kind of Funny. And so that's what I did. Really enjoyed it. Robert Mims says, would you rather be Batman or Spider-Man? Spider-Man, 100%. It's not even a question. Like, Batman's cool or whatever, right? Like, he knows martial arts. He has money. Actually, it's a good point. He is rich. Having money goes a pretty far away. I'm gonna stick with Spider-Man though, because Spider-Man, it seems like it'd be more fun to be Spider-Man, right? Using the Spidey powers, having the web. You know, I guess he made the web, and so I'd have to do that. Say I'm including the web in this, right? Being able to do all that, swing around seems fun. Climbing, whatever, seems fun. Having super fast reflexes, are you kidding me? Being able to show off in front of the homies, do a backflip on command, are you kidding me? Like, I would love to be able to do that. What can I do as Batman? Drive a nice car? No, man, I'm good. I'll just swing to where I need to go. Steven Incog Stevo writes in and says, do you prefer high octane shows or slow burn stuff that really draws you in? Just want to say thanks for coming in with such high energy and enthusiasm. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Steven. Do I prefer high octane shows or slow burn stuff that really draws you in? I mean, I guess it depends on the mood. Recently, I've been on a kick of watching comedies that are quicker. You know, and I say that as, like, I'm halfway through Sex Education Season 2, which that's an hour-long show for each episode. But, you know, I kind of prefer, like, right now at least, like, more upbeat stuff. Like, if you asked me this maybe 4 years ago, I probably would have said, like, oh, yeah, the slow burn stuff for sure, because I was really into, like detective dramas, shows like The Fall on Netflix I really loved, and, like, other sort of, like, you know, like, killer trying to solve who did a thing type shows. Those were my things. But now, like, and I think now it's because of time, right? I kind of want something that feels like it's going right. I just finished Fleabag seasons 1 and 2, which is 6 episodes per season, 20 minutes an episode, right? It's a comedy about a girl who's like just like not living the best life, and it's a fun show to watch. And I think that's kind of been my thing that I've been kind of gravitating to lately. Is like I want shows that are fun to watch, and also shows with heart, right? That's why I love Sex Education right now, is because it has a lot of heart. And so, yeah, I'm gonna say high octane shows. Quest Mode writes in. It says, "Hi Blessing, what are your favorite genres of video games? After listening to Kind of Funny for years, I feel the best friends have got an idea, and this question rolls off the Google Doc." Or the Google Sheet, and so let me open this up. I feel the best friends have gotten a good idea of what games Tim, Greg, and the rest of the Kind of Funny crew enjoy. Now I'd love to hear what type of games you gravitate towards. Thanks, and have a goddamn fucking fantastic day. Quest Mode, appreciate that. What types of genres are my favorite genres in video games? That's a good question. I really like platformers. I really like 3D platformers. And of course, like, my first video game, aside from Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, was Super Mario 64, right? And so, like, I have a love for 3D platformers, probably based in nostalgia to a certain extent. But I also believe that I genuinely believe that the 3D platformers are an amazing genre in terms of kind of like what they're asking you to do at their core, right? Like, a lot of and they vary from game to game, because Crash Bandicoot is all about execution, right? But you look at something like Banjo-Kazooie and it's all about exploration, and it's all about, getting to know the space you're in and really looking at every corner and trying to take everything in and figure out like what is the thing I need to do here, right? And it's puzzle solving, and I really enjoy that method of thinking. I really like puzzle solving games. I also like puzzle games, right? Portal, Cube 2 I played recently, really enjoyed Cube 2. The Witness I really love. There are puzzles you solve in Hellblade, in Zelda, obviously, and so like I really like puzzles in games. 2D platformers like Mario 3 is one of my favorite games ever. And I feel like if there's a genre that I'm good at, it's probably going to be 2D platformers. First person shooters I like. I'm not a competitive first person shooter guy, but I really do like playing first person shooter campaigns. Like I loved Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. Doom is one of my favorite campaigns of this generation. I'm not really big into the Call of Duty campaigns, though I do like Call of Duty multiplayer fine. And then I guess Battle Royale I'm starting to get to more and more. Like Apex Legends was my game of the year last year, and I really liked Fortnite in, I guess, 2018. When it came to Switch, I got super addicted to Fortnite, and so that's one I'm really into. And I played some PUBG, but I wasn't like crazy about PUBG, but I enjoyed playing it. For me, it's really hard to narrow down genre, because I don't want to say that like I like everything, but I'm very willing to try out whatever, right? And so like RPGs, right? Like I have Western RPGs and JRPGs that are some of my favorite games of all time, right? Like Persona is one of my favorite games ever. Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Gold are some of my favorite games ever. Fallout 3, I absolutely adore. It's one of my favorite games ever. But then like back to puzzle games, right? Shadow of the Colossus is up there for me. Third person action adventure games, I really like. Roguelites are a recent one that I've found myself super into. Me and Tim were talking about this today on Games Daily, about how like we both liked Dead Cells. And for Tim, that was like a genre that he was kind of new to and he didn't expect to fall into. But for me, like I loved Rogue Legacy when that came out, and I was super addicted to that, and I got super addicted to Dead Cells in a similar way, right? And if you give me like the right roguelite, I'll fall into it. And so I hope that kind of paints some sort of picture. I know I like machine gunned there, shotgunned, a bunch of different stuff, but yeah, really, like if you give me a good game, I'll play it and like it. Let me see here. The nanobiologist writes in and says, "Hey, Blessing, you may be getting this question a lot, but how has your transition to SF living been like? Any culture shocks?" So this is an interesting thing. I'm gonna drink some of my Tang real quick. So as far as transitioning to SF, I'm coming to SF from Seattle, and I feel like there's a lot of similarity there between cities, at least culturally. Like Seattle definitely feels like a more laid back San Francisco, right? And Seattle, I feel like it feels almost like less of a city in certain ways than San Francisco. Like San Francisco feels like a city, whereas Seattle feels like a city. If that makes sense. I know that sounds like it doesn't make sense, but I feel like, there's an accessibility there as far as Seattle. Like I feel like for me, right, I felt like I still needed to have a car when I lived in Seattle, in a way that like I feel like if I get rid of my car in SF, it won't be as big of a deal, right? Like stuff like that, right? There's street cleaning every week, which is a thing I've gotten to get used to in SF, which means that on a lot of streets, right, once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, there'll be street cleaning, so you can't park on a certain side of the street. And that's been a thing I needed to adjust to, because now everywhere I park, I have to look at a sign and be like, all right, how long can I park here? Can I leave my car here? No? Oh, great, right? And there's straight up just no parking in the neighborhood I live at, which is a new thing for me. But yeah, like I feel like in those like small ways, Seattle feels like a more accessible city. But I feel like culturally, like both of them are very like progressive, like leaning left cities. But Seattle, in terms of the people, there's a thing they call the Seattle Freeze, which is essentially this idea that people in Seattle are not as sociable. Like people in Seattle don't love to interact with you as much, right? Like, people are all about making plans and then not necessarily following through all the time. And this might just be like certain sects of people in Seattle. I don't think it's everybody in Seattle by any means, right? Like there are a lot of friendly people in Seattle, but there's definitely like a cultural kind of stigma about like, yeah, people in Seattle just don't love to hang out. People kind of keep to themselves, which kind of lined up with my personality because I'm definitely introverted and I definitely can be like, I can definitely shut down in terms of energy. Like I can lose energy pretty quickly when I'm around people. SF so far, I feel like people are pretty friendly, which has been pretty fun. It's been a change of pace, and I think there's still a thing. I think there's still some sort of like people not following through on making plans, right? Because while I was hanging out with people, I had the conversation. They were like, "Oh yeah, SF does that too," but I feel like it's not to the same extent as Seattle. So that's been fun. The lovely thing about moving to Seattle is that I'm moving down here and already knowing people down here, right? Between people like Kind of Funny or like people like Yusef or Belinda, or people who are in the community and people who I've met in the industry by doing OKB stuff, you know, like I'm coming down here hasn't been a big struggle because of that, which has been nice. But yeah, like I haven't had any culture shocks per se, but I'm still getting used to being in this stuff. I've only been here for about a month now, and so maybe I'll update you on the next bless up. Let's see here. Neil Bodge also asked Full Metal Alchemist or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I haven't watched either. I know I should watch Full Metal Alchemist because I know a lot of people put that up there as like an amazing anime. And I feel like there's a misconception about me that I'm like a huge anime person. I'm like a casual anime fan, right? Like, you know, I can talk about DBZ because DBZ, like everybody who's watched anime can talk about DBZ, right? And then like for me, like if I'm gonna keep going down the list of anime that I love, I feel like it's a lot of what you would consider like casual anime. And so like Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, I'm in love with. Pokemon, I'm in love with, right? Yu Hakusho is my favorite anime of all time, right? And that's one that like is it's definitely way more hardcore than Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, but like Yu Hakusho, oh my god, I love that cartoon so much, that anime so much. But then like there's one-off stuff that I'll watch. So like I watched One Punch Man, loved it. I watched Death Note, loved it. Season 1 of My Hero I watched, and I got halfway through season 2, but I fell off for whatever reason. I should probably go back and finish My Hero because I know that's current and that's one that people love talking about, and I know there's been some amazing episodes recently that people talk about. And then there's what's it called? There's a Netflix anime that is like all about like death and sex and like demons. Oh, it's called Demon something, I think. I forget what it's called, but people who are familiar with the anime know exactly which one I'm talking about. That's one that I watched and I really liked it, even though I can't remember the name of it. Devilman Crybaby, that's what it's called. Devilman Crybaby. I enjoyed that. Let's see here. What other questions can I get to? There are so many that I can read. Alex writes in and says, "Hi, Blessing. Glad to have you on board, and you have been doing amazingly so far. Thank you so much, Alex. Since joining Kind of Funny, have you had to awkwardly explain to people who don't understand KF, Twitch, and all things Patreon about what you do? Does your family get it?" I don't know if my family gets it. I know some of my family gets it. So I have 3 older sisters, and I have 2 parents. And my 2 parents definitely are probably very confused about what I do. I told them that I'm working in the games industry. I think they understand that, but I don't think they know to what extent. I actually recently had a situation where it's like last month, my oldest sister had a conversation with one of her coworkers, and she was talking, and I guess her coworker was talking about video games, and she was like, "Oh, my brother Blessing does video game stuff." And this is when I was still with OK Beast, and they mentioned my name, or she mentioned my name, and she was like, "Oh, your brother's Blessing," and he apparently recognized me from doing OK Beast stuff. And so I think for her, that was kind of an eye-opener thing of like, oh, snap, like my brother does content, like people recognize that he has a podcast or whatever. And so I think now working at Kind of Funny and doing this full time, I think she at least gets it. You know, my other sisters kind of get it. My parents, I don't think really understand it, but I think, you know, as time goes, they'll probably learn they'll probably learn from seeing it on my social media, because that's really the only way I really like bring it up to them. I don't really talk to them too much about what I do here because it's just so confusing. It's just so weird. It's foreign to like 50-year-old Nigerian people. It's what I'm doing is weird. Let's see what other questions I got here. Of course, if you want your question read on Blessway, which is now turning into Bless Up, right into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Let's see here. Oh God. Oh God, no! I'm gonna skip this one. Somebody wrote in with a fuck, marry, kill, and I feel like that's changed the vibes too much. It's changed the vibes way too much of this episode of Blessway. This first and last episode of Blessway. Let's see here. Ooh, I kind of already talked about that. Oh, here we go. I like this one. Jalen writes in and says, "Hey, Blessing, 2 quick questions for you. First off, I know you're a big fan of the Joe Budden podcast, so I gotta ask, what's one of your favorite moments from that? And second, I want to hear your take on that whole Drake versus Pusha T thing that happened last year. Thanks for all the great content." So, I am a very big fan of the Joe Budden podcast. It's like the podcast where here's a fun thing, right? My last job, I listened to podcasts all day, every day, because I worked at an office, and I didn't really need to, have like my ears available all the time. I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially I had a job where I could listen to podcasts all day, and now I'm really kind of funny. I can't listen to podcasts all day because I can't listen to shows while I'm on a show. But Joe Budden podcast is one of the ones where I'm like, all right, no matter what, I'm finding time to listen to this podcast because I love this podcast, right? And I've now had to cut down on my podcast listening. Sadly, thankfully, I'm now on podcasts that I would have been listening to, and so it's not that big of a deal, right? I'm not listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily every day, along with like Gamescast and other kind of funny stuff. But as far as what's one of my favorite moments from the Joe Budden podcast, I love whenever Joe screams at people. That's always like a fun thing. Whenever he gets mad and like whenever he gets genuinely angry, to where he's screaming from the chest, right? Like when he was beefing with Eminem and he kind of went off there. I feel like that was pretty fun. As far as like funny moments from the podcast, I really liked when they were talking about condoms and Joe Budden brought up he brought up some brand of condoms, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, like this brand is it's legit, like this is the stuff, right?" And the other dudes were like, "Nah, man, nobody ever uses those condoms." And like Joe paused for a minute, and he's like, it's like, is there a conversation happening here? Like, is my dick little? Is that why y'all don't use these condoms, right? And everybody else is like, "Wait, what are you talking about, dude?" And they all bust out laughing. I thought that was hilarious. It's probably the most I've laughed at that podcast. Like I was at work trying to keep it together, listening to that. And then how do I feel about the Drake versus Pusha T thing that happened last year? Here's my thing, man. I feel like I'm the wrong person to ask about rap beef because I like music, right? Most people will probably say that Pusha T won that beef, and I could see that argument, right? Like, Pusha T definitely had the harder shots on Drake, right? Like Pusha T went in on Drake. And like the dirt he had on Drake was definitely like superior to any dirt that Drake could have brought toward Pusha T. Or at least like, because Drake claims that like, oh yeah, he had dirt, but he didn't actually like bring it forward. But Pusha T was actually willing to say the things that he said, right? And he exposed Drake on multiple levels. Some levels might have been a step too far, but either way, right? Like Pusha T, as far as like mano y mano, probably won as far as like the content, but Drake put out the better diss. Like Story of Adidon, I don't think is as good of a diss song as Duppy Freestyle. Like Duppy Freestyle, if you like dissect that song, which I actually did put up a video of this on youtube.com/okbeast. I put up a video essay about Duppy Freestyle and the ways in which I think Drake kind of dissected Pusha T, right? Like there are bars in that song. In fact, that song is like bar after bar after bar, like him going off. It's like one of my favorite diss songs ever. And so like I think Drake put out the better diss song, but I think Pusha T overall won the war with, what the things that Pusha T was saying about Drake, right? It's hard to really come back from that. Let's see here. Daniel Blankenship says, "What was your earliest gaming memory, and what was the first console you bought with your own money?" Earliest gaming memory is me playing Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, which I know is probably very underwhelming because like who has that as the earliest memory? But I'm pretty sure that was like the first game I owned was Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey on N64, and I played the mess out of it. And so that's probably my earliest memory. That and also Super Mario 64. That was probably like my second game that I had. And I remember getting to the end of Super Mario 64, and I played it with my sisters. My sisters were also playing the game at the time, so we played it together and progressed in the game together. And I remember getting to that final Bowser boss fight and being terrified of Bowser, because like the way they build up that final that final battle with Bowser where you're going through the final level and stuff, and they have like the organs and like the rainbow colors, and they make it really intense. And I couldn't, as a kid, right, as like probably a 6-year-old kid, like it was the most epic thing I'd ever experienced up to that point, and it terrified me. And like I remember giving the controller to my sister, to fight Bowser, and I like hid under my bed, and we couldn't figure out how to beat Bowser, right, because that was the one where you would have to throw Bowser to the spike 3 times in order to defeat him. But we didn't know, because the earlier Bowsers, you only had to have 1 hit on them and they will get defeated. And so for us, we were like, how do we beat Bowser? We hit him in the spike, he's not dying. Like, why isn't this working? And like that's definitely one of the earliest vivid memories I have. And then what was the first console I bought with my own money? I think it was the PS3. I think the PS3 was probably the first console I bought with my own money. I remember that was my first job. I like interned at a church for a summer, and then through that made enough money to buy a PS3. And I think I got a PS3. This was like way after the PS3 had released. This was probably like 2010. Yeah, this is like 2010 that I got a PS3. So I got a PS3 really late, but then by then all the games were cheap, and I just like went on a binge, and I just played a bunch of different games because they were all very affordable. And so that's probably my earliest memory. And then I think I like subsequently bought a Wii like the next year. And the Wii I had owned before, but it was my sister's Wii, so she took it away when she moved away. Let's see, Phantom 2301, I guess. Blessing, as a semi-dedicated Smash fan, I would like to ask who you main, and also who you do not like playing. Who do I main? I probably main Young Link. I used to main Link, but then they changed him a bit in this new one, in Ultimate, and so now I main Young Link because I feel like he plays closest to what I was used to. And then Simon, also, I play a lot of Mario. And then like, depending if I'm playing on my home Switch, some Mii Fighters I might mess around with. But like, I feel like that doesn't count. It's kind of cheating. Because like the moveset, like my preferred moveset with the Mii Fighters, you don't want to see me, man. I'm sick with it. Who do not like using? Wii Fit Trainer kind of confuses me. Rob confuses me. All like the weird characters, Mr. Game & Watch, like all the weird characters that have kind of weird movesets. Like if you give me somebody with a sword, I can figure out what I'm doing. Like I probably add Ike also to my my mains. Anybody with a sword, really, though, I feel comfortable with. But when you get into weirder characters, then I don't like using them. Let's see here. What is your top 10 favorite rappers list? Oh boy, I feel like I'm gonna get judged. Kanye is probably my number one. Kanye West. And let's see here. It's hard for me to even keep Kanye at number one because he's had some misses recently. Oh no, my battery is dying. Oh man, I gotta wrap this up quick because my battery is super dying. Let's see how long I've been going. VC's in battery saver mode. Okay, I've been going for a little bit. So yeah, this will be my last question because my PC is gonna die. Kanye is hard to kind of keep up there because he's had some misses recently, and he's been acting a fool. But Kanye, I'm going to put up there just because I've always been a big Kanye fan from his inception. Let's see here. Childish Gambino's up there. Charles Hamilton's in there. Lupe Fiasco's in there. I put Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick. I think they're all in there. Common, Eminem, sure. And then, did I say Gambino? I forget if I said Childish Gambino. I had to have said Childish Gambino. And so I'm gonna leave that. And then Mac Miller, maybe I'll say Mac Miller because I really like Mac Miller. And so I'm sure I'm missing out on some people. I know if I looked at my Spotify, I could probably pull out other people. John Gibbs is up there actually too, who is very obscure, but I highly recommend checking him out. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for your first and final episode of Blessway. I'll be back next month with the first episode of Bless Up. Don't make fun of me for wearing my headphones like this because I could hear myself in my headphones, and I know the microphone isn't like the perfect quality, and so it was distracting me, which is why I did it like that. But yeah, thanks guys for your support on Patreon. Thanks for being super kind to me in the first month of Kind of Funny. I really appreciate that. You guys have been super supportive. It's been awesome to see. Make me feel comfortable here. I appreciate it. And yeah, until next time, bless up.